The landscape industry has a 4 R's of nutrient stewardship that I want to share with you that I think is applicable in treating a designed ecosystem for insects. And they are the 4 R's. They are right source, right rate, right time, and right place. Right source, of course, is covered in biostimulants. We've got our natural sustainable elements that we would prefer to use. If you're using chemicals and have to do that, that's fine, but we know how to wean you off of that if your customers want you to. Right rate is how much to use, and many of the amplifiers that we introduced in our biostimulant session showed us how we could decrease that rate and make it less toxic. And then right time and right place is all about seasonal applications, doing it at the right time so that we create optimal windows of growth. And right place, of course, again and again we've emphasized, put these valuable, expensive amendments and supplements in next to the absorbing roots in the identified critical root zones. Some of these have to be applied in the trenching that we've illustrated in the hub and spoke pattern. Its form will cause you to do that because they're powdery, they can be blown by the wind and so forth. And it also depends on the condition of the critical root zone. How much organic matter is there? Are we able to formulate, as you've seen in our biostimulant illustration, this insecticide or a supplement into a liquid form and apply it like that? Or does it need to be put on the foliage, on the bark, or drenched or injected? Those are the 4 different ways that we're going to show you how to do that. Right source, right rate, right time, and right place. We'll use that, and that'll guide our thinking and keep us on track. We've talked about right time and right place and the right method, which is extremely important. We don't use many pesticides in maintaining our designed ecosystems. We've found that if you promote balance and if you've got the right mixture of water, air, nutrients, and energy, and you are proceeding down the path that we have illustrated for you in the previous tree preservation actions, that the 3 major groups of insecticides are not, or pesticides are not necessary. And those 3 groups are fungicides, herbicides, and insecticides. Fungicides we try and stay away from unless they are specially formulated so that they don't interfere with the growth of the underground fungi which help the tree to acquire external sources of nutrients, and they aid in that process of nutrient cycling. You don't want to interrupt that by using a fungicide that kills your beneficial fungi in the ground. Herbicides, weed killers, are of course self-explanatory. They have enough toxin in them to destroy a lot of the living organisms in the soil and render it lifeless if you're not careful. If you're going to use herbicides, right time, right place, right source, right rate is vitally important to follow so that it's targeted to specific areas, such as along the edge of a sidewalk, along a driveway, or edging around a critical root zone of a tree, as long as we use an amplifier so that we can lower the dilution rate and we can make it less toxic, or the least amount of toxicity possible. And so there are 4 or 5 categories of these insecticides that we use depending on whether or not an action threshold has been reached. And that is determined when the customer says, I'm losing too much of the foliage on this tree, there's too many holes in the leaves, it looks ugly, or In the case of aphids and psyllids, when you get this honeydew that is very unsightly and the owners simply won't tolerate it, that's an action threshold that you must take action upon. And you will use organochlorides like DDT, kelthane, and other miticides. You've got organophosphates, which is acephate, malthion, and oxydimetron. We've got carbamates like carbaryl. We've got neonicotinoids, which have become very, very popular, which is merit. That's a imidacloprid. You have your pyrethroids, which are synthetic pyrethrins, bifenthrin, which is one of our most popularly used control methods. And then we have insect growth regulators, IGRs, that target metabolism, and they're sold under the names of Distance, Confirm, and Dimilin. And they have, of course, a level of toxicity that is intolerable to a lot of beneficial insects. And we will encourage all of our users to limit what you have to do with these toxic insecticides. There are some biological controls that can be used for different types of things like cankerworms. There is bacteria thurogenesis, which are formulated microbials. We have Bavaria bassiana, which is sold under a name of Naturalis Zero. It's a myco-insecticide using fungus to target certain insects, and we can always apply nematodes as well, because nematodes are microscopic worm-like creatures that use bacteria to infect the insects in the ground, and that bacteria kills them using various modes of action. Those are the natural ways, but many times if we're called in to a ecosystem that is so badly out of balance that you've got massive populations of aphids, bagworms on our Leland cypress are another type of infestation that we often deal with. We often have to use a toxic substance, and when you use it, let's make sure that you buffer the tank mixture, that you lower the rate, right source, right time, right rate, right time. All those 4 R's have to be honored, and don't use any more than you absolutely have to. We are going to demonstrate according to the state regulations that we're required to comply with, because we are licensed ornamental pest applicators in the state of North Carolina, and we have certain rules and regulations that we have to follow with regards to our protective gear, and we're going to demonstrate the use of these for you in a subsequent session that will weave into these explanations. But it's important that when you begin to apply these, that they stay on target, that you pick the right time, the right place, and the right rate.